gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the Ref Bump. My name is Codd Sinclair from such acclaimed shows from the PWO YouTube page, such as Referee's Discretion and most recently The Quick Count. Um, you know him as Jeff the Hitman Hall, but very recently we did one of those DNA 23 tests, and we found out that he has a long lost relative um, who has been an official in his career. Um, so Jeff the Hitman Hall is now Jeffrey Long, as he is related to Teddy Long. Um, how did you come to find? How did you react when you found out that you have a relative that is also an official? Now it's like you and I are brothers.
Well, first, let me start by saying thank you, Cobb, for having me on the show. And second, let me say, what's going on, playa? um, Man, listen. You start digging deep on some family trees, and the next thing you know, you may or have an uncle or two that you didn't even know. So coming to find out, oh, Uncle Theodore, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. Well, you and I are on this journey together. For those who are catching us for the first time, Jeff and I have done some reviews in the past. We're gonna do a review probably every 2 weeks or so, give or take. Um, we're just gonna watch some wrestling and just shoot the breeze here for about an hour. Um, so this on our first episode of the Ref Bump, it is WCW Starrcade 1997 from the MCI Center in Washington D.C. I went to this show as a kid. Um, all those shots that you see like at the beginning of the show where they're like miles and miles away. That's where my parents and I were sitting directly in the middle, and I was like, "Oh, that looks awful familiar." Um, but no, it was this I felt was a great show to watch because we are in December. This is Starrcade month. Um, we just had we just had one of the guys in the main event come back to our television screens within the past handful of weeks. Um, but yeah, this is the biggest show in the history of WCW, and they are building it like that. They're talking about it like that. Um, just the hype coming into this show for me, I was pumped because Sting hadn't wrestled in over a year. Um, Hollywood Hogan has been running roughshod essentially over the entire WCW. Um, Thoughts going into this card, Jeff?
Let me correct you there. I believe the correct term is running wild, brother. But uh, yeah, no, I agree with you. I actually didn't go to this show. Ironically, I remember being mad, upset because I think we had some family issues or something. Something happened where we didn't go like last minute. We weren't allowed. We couldn't go. But yes, I would agree. This is a time in wrestling. It's just crazy. You're kind of right on the edge of dirt sheet. Well, dirt sheets have always been a thing, but you're on the edge of internet. It's kind of coming in, So internet, smarks, if you will. But the fact that kind of like Sabu and Taz and ECW, where you had these guys not touching each other. I mean, not even touching each other for a year. This may be probably one of the best / slowest burns, of all times. Now we'll talk about if it paid off or not at the end, but or if it was executed properly at the end. But yeah, I agree. This was, to be fair, this was booked so well, in the way that they did it, that we probably would have been someone would have had something to complain about anyway in hindsight. But yeah, this was a big pay-per-view for WCW. And I think this may have, well, not just this, but this was another nail in their coffin, if you will.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
No, agreed. I think there was so much hype built around this show to go with that year plus long hype, and talking to a couple of people outside of the PWO circle. Um, they compared it to the first Rock versus Cena build leading up to Mania, where they really didn't, square off a whole lot. They didn't face to face a lot. Um, I can't remember if it was the first time around or the second for them where they teamed up at Survivor Series. Um, but even if it was the first time around, they built that from one WrestleMania to the next, and it's very similar in that regard. Um, what happened after that is for another episode. Um, but this is, and you can check out the review for the main event for Starrcade '98 on the Quick Count,
Here we go.
because I really feel as though that was the final nail for them. What led to that? So when we get there, um, I'm ready to dive in. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah.
We start off with the WCW Cruiserweight Championship match. It is the champion Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko, and right off the get go, um, you because this is when the cruiserweight division is really starting to reach its peak. Um, just think about those two, and then all of the cruiserweights around them. Um, you're getting talent from Mexico. You're getting talent from Japan. Just look versus Jushin Tiger on a Starrcade show. Um, so at, at at the WrestleMania equivalent, they have a lot to kind of they have a lot to step up to the plate to. Um, so did you think they did it?
With this match, I'm gonna be honest. This wasn't one of their greatest matches. If you had to go back and if you're just doing Eddie versus Dean, I mean, you could probably pick 10. This would probably be outside the 10. And I mean that's fair. I mean, you can't be the best every single night. You would assume those two guys would just put on a great match all the time, and man, to be honest with you, they usually do. But it was just a match. It was okay. We had Ultimo Dragon in the was a personal favorite of mine in the crowd. So again, like you said earlier, Codd more, or dare I call him a cruiserweight, but more of cruiserweight style guys. That they're still introducing and showing. But as in a match, I mean, by no means was it a bad match. It's just knowing both guys, you think it would be on a it would have been better than it was.
Yeah. Speaking of people in the crowd, if there wasn't a talent on the card, they were in the crowd, which I think really built around um, the main event, but also just this being the biggest show of the year. Um, it was different, and I'm drawing comparison to Cena again. Um, but when Cena faced the Undertaker that one year at Mania, they didn't put him in the crowd to kind of like build that fan service up or to
Mm-hmm.
draw any. The point was for him to eventually face the Undertaker. They to to kind of make this have this big event feel. And I think they landed it in that regard. Um, but I can name 5 matches alone that they had in ECW that were way better than this. Um, this was this was definitely disappointing for me. Um, it does end with Eddie hitting the frog splash for the win. Um, I did like the final sequence there. Um, Texas Cloverleaf fail. Eddie kicks the knee, then goes for the finish. Um, I love that aspect of it. But overall, I would give it a 1 count. Um, just to your point, you expect so much more, and for them not to deliver is a little bit of a disappointment. Um, but I would say this is one of the better matches on the card, though.
Absolutely, this is one of the better matches on the card. I'd probably give it 3 stars. Yeah, three's fair. Just for the guys, like you said, the last sequence was good. Eddie hits that frog splash, and Malenko's kind of on his side. which
Hmm.
which is just stuff that kind of doesn't happen with those two guys, so that's why I was kind of confused. But again, solid match. I'm not complaining, but just you would assumed a little bit better.
Yeah. Um, and then we transition from that, and then we get an in-ring promo from Scott Hall. Um,
Who, if I could jump in, who looks all lit up like a Christmas tree.
yeah, I'm not. I put on my notes here that that he looks excitingly sober. But now that I think about it, that's probably just another word for buzzed.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
He doesn't look he looks like he almost could be sober, like you said. Almost.
yeah. What did you think about this promo in general, though?
I've taken a lot of flack over the years. I am not a Scott Hall guy. Does he? No, I guess pun intended. Does he have charisma? Absolutely. He's a guy that actually has more charisma than working talent to me. That's just my opinion. So I'm not as high on him as everybody else. He is great on the mic. He does. I will give him this. He does have one of the best right hands. Just working punches. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But not a terrible promo. It's Scott Hall, but for me. It's just a dime a dozen. I'm not a Scott Hall guy, so I'm probably biased here, but I'm not his biggest fan.
Yeah, he definitely had his up. He had his ups and downs. Um, I think this is really when they wanted to give him a good push because '97, was the year that he won World War III. So with that, they were essentially strapping a rocket to his back to, maybe be your next champion, depending on what the outcome is at the end of the night. Um, but I mean, I could have done without this. I mean, I feel like it was just a time filler
Yeah.
because your next match, we have a 6-man tag. We have Macho Man Randy Savage, Scott Flash Norton, and Vincent with and they are facing the WCW World Tag Team Champions. It is a story about two brothers named Rick and Scott, and then they
Mm-hmm.
have a friend now. His name is Ray Traylor, also known as the Big Boss Man. Um, uh, fun fact: it was supposed to be Conan who was supposed to be with Vincent and Scott Norton, but we had Macho Man as a late replacement because Conan was he was at the birth of his child. So
Okay. I didn't know that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
this is absolutely crazy. Um, I I really didn't care about this match if I'm being honest with you. Any match where it's Vincent in WCW and oh my gosh, I immediately just turn it off. Just um, what did you think about it?
This is typical WCW, but what I did take away from this is that Macho Man is probably one of your most uh, what can be in consideration for one of the most not underrated talents because he's great, but I think people really they don't really give him the shine that he probably deserves.
Mm-hmm.
Because here he has to be what 50. Close to it,
Yeah,
right? You
old.
know, and yeah, and he still just looks good, and he still can command the ring.
Mm-hmm.
One of these guys is wrestling, and the other ones are. I'm not knocking the Steiners because the Steiners are good wrestlers in their own right. Maybe not so much here in this version of WCW, but they are good wrestlers. But Macho Man
Mm-hmm.
is just on another level, and even here, like, is this hokey and this wild and this all over the place? Oh, of course it is. But Macho Man he's just great. He's just great. And I know I'm probably picking the best things out of this and leaving out everything else because the match wasn't that great. But I mean,
No,
if you're just
and
watching him, yeah. If you watch in a vacuum, one of these things isn't like the other.
yeah. The Steiners are obviously the tag team champions at this point. Um, it, I mean, nothing really. Nothing really was great here, other than that Scott Steiner tried to kill Vincent at one point in the match with that
Yes.
Doomsday Device DDT. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he tried, but we do get Savage getting the win for his team with his elbow drop. Um, the other thing is that it felt like there was no structure almost. Like it was just guys in a ring together, just
No,
having a match, doing what they wanted to do, and it showed.
no, you're right. And then that's what the only person trying to keep the damn thing together was Macho Man. You know what I mean? He's the only
Mm-hmm.
person trying to, hey guys, like let's kind of get rein this thing back in. And to be fair, the Steiners, again, they're good wrestlers, but there's not really anything for them to do in this match. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yes, they could wrestle better, but it's just this one was doomed from the beginning. When you got Virgil in there, or
Yeah.
Vincent, whatever they're calling him now, uh,
Whatever you want to
you
call
know,
him. Yeah.
yeah, you're probably in bad shape.
Yeah. I couldn't get this one above a half count. Like I said, Vincent in the match just turned off.
Yeah,
Nothing fantastic. It was a match to be matched.
I'll give it a star on the merit of Macho Man alone.
Dang, you're being super nice today, Jeff.
I am.
So we get Mean Gene bringing out JJ Dillon. There's no referee for the main event yet. What they said during the introduction for this show is that they will pick a name from a hat. That is the little words that come out of their mouth. Is that they will take all the referees' names, put them in a hat, pick it out, and that's your.
How else would you solve it, right? How else would you come to a conclusion, Codd? You have to. That's the only feasible way.
Yeah. So tell me how, at the end of the day, they pull out the one name from the hat, and it's NWO Special Nick Patrick.
And on top of that, for maybe us, Ryan and I showing our age, I love watching these old pay-per-views when we go back and do this, because you see stuff that you just forget. Time. You forget, and there's also a hotline to call in. And I know some of the younger kids won't understand, but boy, I was all about hotlines when I was younger. Calling in, trying to talk to some of your favorite wrestlers, talk to some of the referees.
Mm-hmm.
It's just cool seeing them plug some of that stuff that you totally forgot about.
Yeah. So here we are, moving on to the best match of the evening. I'm really excited for this one. We have Mr. Bill Goldberg himself taking on Steve Mongo McMichael.
Codd's favorite wrestler.
I tell you what, I will pop hard if I get a Mongo spot here. Oh man, Goldberg doesn't have pyro yet. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying it's like Goldberg looks like he would have if they wouldn't have let him go over the Fiend to freaking Crown Jewel. He just looks like he's just pissed at the world coming out for this match, and it doesn't look like it's character work. It just looks like he's legitimately upset about something.
Yeah, because again, he's a guy that takes him. I don't want to get on this tirade here on this show, but he's a guy that takes him too serious, and his work is trash. His gimmick is trash. So he comes out there, he takes himself seriously. Again, he's out here beating up Mongo up for real. Actually for real. And I was trying to tell you when Mongo came out. I mean, it literally took 4 seconds to tell the crowd how he felt about him.
Listen, he always had something to say. If there was a camera in his face,
Yeah,
he always made it a point to say anything.
2 seconds
that
and
was what was great about Mongo.
Again, Mongo,
and I was in that crowd, man. Okay,
he's the gift that keeps on giving. He's another guy. His work's terrible, but if you're just judging him on his charisma and his everything else, I mean, he's great.
Yeah.
Never mind him almost falling off the top rope. When he goes to get up there.
Oh my God.
Who cares?
Listen, it's so at one point, Mongo does kick out of a spear, which is supposed to be the setup for the jackhammer. Oh God, I don't even know where to go with this. I mean, I'm going to give it a 0 count, but I just want to talk about how glorious this whole image is. Mongo almost gets paralyzed in the finish. Almost lands on his dang neck. What do you got?
No. I agree with you. Again, this match is trashed, and this is how this is how bad things can happen, because you have Mongo, who's a guy that's not necessarily a wrestler. He's green. He's coming into being a wrestler. You have Goldberg, who he's not really a wrestler. I mean, he's a wrestler, but you got two guys that are really super green, and they're having a match. And shocker when, someone can almost break their neck 4 or 5 times, people almost falling off the ropes. You got Goldberg in the corner, kicking Mongo Wise down, but I mean, literally kicking the snot out of him. I mean, just nailing him with these kicks, So it's just,
yeah.
And again, this is another fault of WCW's. Guys weren't ready. So I mean, it's nothing to me. It doesn't get anything. This is the WCW that people make fun of, and we all get on. It's always a tale of two companies with WCW. We brag now and we say like, oh well, WCW had the best wrestling around, and then you go watch their pay-per-views, and depending on which one you watch, you're like, what? You have to find it. Unfortunately, it's split the pay-per-view in half, and half of it's probably good, and half of it is absolutely awful. I'm sorry, 0 stars.
No, you're fine, but it's funny though, because now we're in the late '97 when we're starting to get these ECW pay-per-views coming out, and it's the same way though. Current wrestling fans are saying like, oh, ECW, was so great. They always put on a great show, and then you go back and watch it, and it's like, well, half the show is really crappy, and then the other half is like you have 4.5 star matches. Lance Storm and Chris Candido bringing the house down, and then you get these silly squash matches. It's like I don't know if either company could find a happy medium between putting on the classics and then trying to maybe balance out their show with some comedy match or squash match. It's like they didn't know how to balance it, and it just came out on the product.
No, I would agree 100%. I think that's the path that AEW is on now. Not so much with some of the. I mean, the time frame is different, but I mean, as in good and bad / some things are really, really good, some things are really, really bad. It just kind of depends on the week, depends on the show, depends on the angle. But yeah, but to generalize and say, or for the most, for overall, it's great. Well, you got to go back and you got to watch. You have to watch, and I would challenge anybody to, go back and, like us, pick a pay-per-view you haven't seen in a while, or one you remember, or one someone's been telling you about. Oh man, you got to watch it. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Actually, go back and watch it.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to the Ravens rules match between Chris Benoit and Saturn. Raven essentially comes out and says that his contract says, when he wrestles, and he said he's not doing it tonight. He continues to dodge Chris Benoit. So we get Saturn out, and obviously a Ravens rules match is a fancy way of saying a no disqualification match. It's funny because I don't know if they knew this was a no disqualification match. Like the first part of the match, you have, Saturn trying to slap on a chin lock, and it's like you could literally go outside, grab a chair, and hit. Okay, I got to vent on this because when I would play video games, when I play wrestling video games with my dad would be the one to grab a chair, hit, and keep hitting me, and I'm there like, stop. And he's like, why? Like, why? And that's why I'm at here is like, why would you not go get a chair and in a no disqualification match or any weapon for that matter? And yet we're slapping on like chin locks in the ring. It was very confusing for me. But for guys that for guys that can legitimately go, this was another underwhelming match.
It was, and the wild thing for me is literally what we were just talking about. You look at the card and you go back, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, because I'm a big proponent of I'm a Perry Saturn guy. He can really, really wrestle. I think he's underrated as well. I don't have to say anything about Chris Benoit. His work speaks for himself. You feel how you feel about him, but if you're just judging a man on his in-ring work, he's great. So you see both of their names on the docket, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. This is going to be a good one. And it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't terrible. But it just didn't click. And then you got the Flock out there. You got Kidman. You got Riggs. I hadn't seen him in a while, so that was refreshing, actually.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me that.
Lodi, sick boy.
Oh, you talk about Guy Fieri?
Yeah. Names you hadn't heard of in years. Again,
Lodi always looked like Guy Fieri to me. I don't know.
Yeah, in goggles. And
yeah.
Raven's my guy. I just love me some Raven. His WCW stuff is good. His WWF stuff is good. His ECW stuff is good. And even when he was on the way out, his Ring of Honor stuff was great with Punk. He's just great. My mom, took a flannel that I used to wear around my waist at school, like Raven, and she took it and hid it from me because she said I had to stop wearing it. I was getting teased at school.
Oh my gosh!
So we're wearing the same flannel around my waist and saying "quote the Raven," but we'll save that for another day.
Man. Yeah. It also reminded me, because Kidman's finisher has always been shooting star press, but then this reminded me, seeing him with the Flock, that he changed it to the 7-year itch, which which popped me hard. I was sitting there watching, and I was 7-year itch. Oh, okay. But Raven hits an even flow DDT. Saturn locks in the rings of Saturn. Benoit is unconscious at this point. Match is over. I'm giving it a half count, and that I was really torn on it because I have here a half count or a 1 count. But the fact that they didn't use the stipulation, because the Road Wild show that I watched and reviewed on Referee's Discretion, that had a Ravens rules match on it, and they used the weapons well. It was just a bad match, and that's the same here, except they don't really know or care that it's a no disqualification match. But it was overbooked to heck, honestly.
Yeah.
I can't get it above a half count.
I get generous. I gave it a star just because it's got Perry Saturn in it, and Benoit and Raven. But outside of that, it wasn't. But I'll tell you another thing too. If you look at the time period, if you look at all the Flock that are standing in the ring, everybody's just jacked. And then you watch the card too, and we get to some other wrestlers like Luger and Bagwell. It starts to make you it doesn't make you think, but you look back on those times and you're like, man, like a lot of those guys were on the juice, man.
Oh yeah.
And again,
I'm really glad you said that.
it was a different time back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, like I just said earlier, you forget and you go back and you look at those pay-per-views and like even Lodi is, yoked. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
he's
Guy
just
Fieri
yoked.
on steroids.
Yeah, literally. I mean, he's just jacked. And, and again, I'm not condoning that, but I'm just saying you go back and you look at some of these guys, we're just used to seeing, for the most part, smaller guys, nowadays, which is fine. I'm not complaining. I'm obviously not saying guys need to be on the juice, but I'm just saying, again, different wrestling, different time.
Speaking of juice, we got Buff Bagwell versus Lex Luger.
All the juice.
Listen, I said that I hated the Master Supreme Vincent. I actually felt okay. I'm not gonna lie on this one. I finished this match on the second viewing. The first match, the first time I watched this, about 5 to 6 minutes in, I actually fell asleep. I
Lex
don't
will do that
know
to you.
what it was. Listen, I have never been a Lex Luger guy. Buff Bagwell, when you limit what he can do in the ring, we watched Halloween Havoc on here when he was he was a part of Stars and Stripes, and when he's in a tag team with the right guy, it's just a great pairing. And then even with his solo run, he's not terrible. And
No.
I loved his finisher because he was the only guy that was doing a blockbuster at the time, and I was doing that off the freaking couch arm and bringing in the bed but as his run got to late 90s, it was probably too much juice. He just couldn't move around, and Luger could never move. I mean, that was his one trait, that he was just never an athletic guy in the ring. And you know what? God bless him now, because he seems like a really chill dude, in like these like Against the Ropes interviews and all of these Starrcast or whatever. This match was absolutely awful. I have a 0 star. The biggest reason why this match was 16 and a half minutes.
Yeah, and to backtrack to what you said, I agree. I'm not going to say anything bad about Marcus Bagwell because I love me some Marcus Bagwell. But you're right. If he wrestles to his abilities and stays in his lane, he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give him a guy like Luger who can't wrestle at all, well, like we talked about earlier, well, now you're in trouble, because Luger's just off. I mean, Luger's it may be the original. Well, I take it back. He's not the original, but he's your original like 80s, body guy. It's him. You've had guys that had bodies that couldn't wrestle way before him. But if you're talking about, once you start to get to the point of cable television and syndicated TV, Luger's the guy that just is, God, absolutely terrible. And this match was bad, and both of them were bad. And then you throw Virgil in it for some ungodly reason. He's bumping like a ping pong ball all over the place in this match, and it's just, again, get your money, Virgil. I'm not gonna knock you, brother, but yeah, this is a 0 star for me.
Yeah, it's we get a couple run-ins here towards the end, but we do get a Scott Flash Norton run in. He hits Luger with the chain. Buff covers him, gets the win. All the heels also at this point. I don't think a face has won yet on this show. So it'll be very interesting to see, and I have a reason for that once we get to the end. But I do not watch this match. Okay, this is Heroes of Wrestling bad. Okay,
this is time in your life that you can't get back, so don't do it.
Listen, and I feel
I was
like
going to text you that, but I didn't because I was like, I don't want to waste the 40, like, I don't want to waste the 5 minutes of conversation we're going to have about it in text before we even do the show. So I was like, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose 20 minutes. You know?
Yeah. When this match ended, I sat there, and I felt like at the end of Mega Man 2, when you see like all the seasons change as like he's walking, and I felt like that. I felt like we're in Mega Man in this. Just everything around me just sped up because this slowed down time. And if I never have to watch this again, it will be a gift. Somebody get me a Christmas gift because that's got to be it. So
they were definitely putting time in a bottle in this match. I can guarantee you that.
So we move on to our next match. It is for the WCW United States Championship as Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, the champion, defends against DDP, Diamond Dallas Page. Commentary with an interesting note here before we jump in. DDP replaces Ric Flair. They don't really go into why. They just kind of say it and just move on. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but it always seems like DDP's ribs are never healthy.
That's because they never are. And Codd, if you know what's good for you, you shut your mouth about it.
There we go. Yeah, it's
You can thank Dennis Rodman.
Yeah. This is actually a pretty okay match for me. Curt Hennig, I feel like, is one of those guys that never got the world title push that he so well deserved. Mm-hmm. I feel like he was always a top level guy, and if he had to carry a match, I mean, here in 1997, DDP was not exactly a ring general. Okay, he was still. I mean, he's only been wrestling for just a couple of years. So
yeah, you're talking about a guy. What did he start when he was 31? I think.
It was it was early to mid 30s. I know that.
Yeah. I know. He was a manager forever. Running talent around, being with talent, and then he kind of people were like, "Oh, you should wrestle," and he was like, "Nah, I'm too old. I'm too late." But no, I mean, he didn't. I know Dusty was a big guy. Dusty was one of his biggest backers, and I think you're right. I think he got in like early, and I say like 32, 33, 34, and then kind of wrestled, until he wrestled.
Yeah, but the finish of this one, Curt Hennig blocks a diamond cutter. DDP does the float over, hits one. Loudest crowd pop of the night so far was when he finally hits that diamond cutter, gets the win. I feel like it was a little bit rushed. Towards the end there, I feel like you could have taken some of the time off the previous garbage fire and put it onto this one.
Yep.
But I'm totally fine with this match. This is a 1.5 count for me. The crowd was so into this match after virtually being dead for the last match. And I feel like with the run that Curt Hennig was on, this was the perfect time for DDP to take the title off of him.
No, I would agree. These guys, like you said, the match wasn't the greatest necessarily. I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, I've been saying that a lot, but it wasn't. And just the way they got the crowds into it, so that's all you need. And they were in it hook, line, and sinker from start to finish. And Curt Hennig is a wrestler's wrestler. It's in his blood. Third generation wrestler. He's great. He's great. And Diamond Dallas Page is Diamond Dallas Page. So I mean, this was a good match. I gave it 2 stars. Again, it set the world on fire, but the crowd was in it, so it shows you how much I know.
Yeah, I could have also given it an extra half count because they might have been into this match so well because the last match was so bad. But I felt the same way when I was sitting down. I was like, okay, so what do I want to give this? Because this last match was super bad, but this match was so good. So good on them though. Solid match. And then we get this next one. Oh, I'm. So this is the second to last match on the card. We get Larry Zbyszko in action in 1997, taking on Eric Bischoff, who is being accompanied to the ring by Mr. Scott Hall. There is a special guest referee in this match too. You wanna share a little bit, Jeff?
It is Bret the Hitman Hall, and Hall. God, Bret the Hitman Hart. Put myself over. Bret the Hitman Hart, and you're asking why, and we're going to tell you the real reason. We don't know either. we don't know why either. We have no idea why he's in here. Because he was poorly booked and it had nothing to do. They didn't know what they wanted to do with the guy. But we can save that damn story for another day. But
so we're still in 97. Survivor Series was just the month before this. Obviously on his way out the door, WCW backs up the money truck, brings him down to Atlanta, Georgia. So he is the hottest. He was the hottest free agent at the time. But why they put him in this match? Okay, instead of just do what they end up doing by the end of the night anyway. I'm just really confused at this. Did anybody win? Did anyone win this match?
And then Larry Zbyszko, I can't stand. Like I can't stand Larry Zbyszko. And then Scott Hall again. Scott Hall's not a guy that I'm in love with. So then they have a dust up with Bret Hart after the match. He punches him, puts him in the sharpshooter. But for what? It's just a giant smoz that I don't need.
It was a waste of Bret Hart's time.
I
feel like, and I'll come back to this moment in time here in a handful of minutes, because I want you to think about Bret Hart being the special guest referee in this match, and how he was utilized. But with that being said, I give it a 0 count again. It was a waste of time, but with the main event coming up, I feel like you could have still put a match there that meant something, and not wasted everybody's time. But I don't know.
No, I agree. Your match before the main event, this should have opened. This should open the show. But then you also got to think no. But it's Bischoff, so he's gonna put himself over. So. What do I know?
So, here we go. Main event time. We have for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. We have the champion Hollywood Hulk Hogan defending against the Icon Sting, who was just the Crow here at this point. This is his first match since Fall Brawl '96. So Fall Brawl is only in September. So we're looking at about 15 months, give or take a month or so. Typical Hogan stuff, honestly, to start. But anytime Sting hit Hogan with anything, it could have been a right hand. That place, there was not a dry seat in the house. Like it. Everybody was losing their collective mind.
Yeah, but most of my questions are for you, Codd, since you were there. How Sting came out? Like, how was that?
I was losing my
because they
collective
had that little like
6-year-old mind.
because they had that little like laser like like Sting and like Scorpion thing like, and we're talking 97, so this ain't exactly. Some people, to my older people, you understand technology isn't necessarily booming here in 97.
Yeah, so around this time I was about 7 or 8. I don't do well with heights now. Anything where I have to look like straight down or anything, I'm like, I don't know. I gotta I gotta work myself into it to kind of sit down and just chill. But I was 7 or 8. I sat and I was having a gay old time. I tell you. Sting came out and I almost fell friggin' down the bleachers, man. Like I was jumping up and down. I was like, "Oh my god, it's Sting!" I almost sound like Shivani when he came on AEW. It's Sting. But I was so pumped for this match. I was so happy, and then
watching it and then watching it now, it pulls up those memories because I just remember Sting coming down with his face. And again, I'm on record. I'm a multicolored Sting guy over a Crow Sting guy, but here it was just so much unknown. Even because you didn't even know if he was a good guy necessarily. He just didn't like Hogan or the NWO. I mean, you assumed he was a good guy, but for a guy, again, this is why this was booked great, for a guy to not even say anything, no dust up, no run-ins, just, oh man, it's just, and then when they're standing there toe to toe, because it's Hulk Hogan and it's Sting. For some of us guys, you thought you'd never, that's something that would never happen. For all intents and purposes, Sting is WCW's Hulk Hogan for the most part, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, was supposed to be. So I don't know. It just was. I don't know. It brought up a lot of not emotions, but just a lot of. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. It just the unknown and the booking was just so good, so good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that that original face Sting is the best, hands down. Watch any of his early WCW stuff, and you'll learn about a man called Sting. He does this, he does that. You know that.
Absolutely.
So I have the number here. It's 11 minutes and 18 seconds. Hogan hits a body slam, covers him, and it's a 3 count. Hogan wins. So huge blunder here on the end of Nick Patrick because the count is supposed to be quick, which is supposed to lead to everything else that happens. But that is an average Nick Patrick 3 count. It wasn't fast. It was average, and commentary is lighting him up like, "Oh, that was a quick count. What are we doing?"
Yeah.
And so here comes out the special guest referee from the last match. We get Bret Hart comes out to the ring.
Has no business out here.
None.
Sorry.
Zero.
I mean, I'm yelling at you. Like it's your fault. My bad.
No, but you are 100% right, though. Bret Hart has no business being out here. Nothing has been done to him. Stops the bell from ringing. Hogan is trying to get out of town because the Boo Birds are out now. Because you build for 15 months, and everybody's expecting Sting to win this. Because you don't build that much to get this. And so Hogan's trying to get good.
And then another thing too is that so that when when Hogan hits the leg drop and gets the 3 count, Bret Hart's like already out there. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like 1, 2, 3. Then they pan over to the to the bell, and Bret Hart's there like right now, like, hey, don't ring it. Like, well, wait a minute. You know, it's just, you know, then Sting's up and Hogan's selling. I mean, Hogan's, you know, doing Hogan, which is great. You know, he's bumping, he's scared to death. So like you said, all that is fine. It's just that initial count. It just, I don't know. It just wasn't good. It just wasn't good. And this has gone on for a long time. And then Bischoff, you know, has defended it and still defends it to this day, you know, saying, oh, we had to be there. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. Even as a 7 or 8-year-old Ryan, I was like, oh my gosh, it's Bret Hart. What is Bret Hart doing out here? Was the question. Because there is no answer. There's still no answer.
No. Yeah, and then he gets. I mean, Hogan gets put in the Scorpion Deathlock, or actually, well, I like to call it sharpshooter. How dare he do that in front of Bret Hart? But so they do that. Bret rings the bell, and now Sting's the champion. Like, whoa, what?
Yeah. Get a couple of Stinger splashes. Gets the Scorpion Deathlock.
Locker room clears out. You know.
Yeah. Now, I tell you, that is one thing that I always remember, even being up in the nosebleeds, is everybody funneling their way out. They get in the ring. They've got Sting on their shoulders. Everybody's partying. Everybody's celebrating. But I'm giving this nothing.
No, I agree with you. Nothing. So many fanny packs too in 1997. But yeah, I'm giving it nothing. Sorry. It just was bad.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, it was bad. This was bad.
Yeah, they had just to compare for a quick second. Meltzer gave this a 1/4 star. I really think he's being generous there. What I like about the match is that what you said at the beginning of the show. You know, this is almost the start to the end. WCW.
Absolutely, it was. Or it absolutely was. And it's sad because this, you know, we can say what if and you know, who knows, but this could have been a way of them WCW staying.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating though, because you know, as a naive kid, Sting won, and I was the happiest DDP shirt wearing kid there. I tell you what, he won. Hey, I had the blue one where it's the hands.
Yeah, kind of a DDP guy, huh?
I guess at the time I was. But Sting won, and I was so happy, you know. And now, you know, as a curmudgeonly, you know, middle-aged man, they had everything in their hands, I think, and it has been booked differently or even halfway decent.
Yeah,
I feel like WCW would be able to hang around for a bit.
Well, and they may have actually would have
some things coming down the pipe, but
he still would have gone under. But I'd like to think it would have lasted a little bit longer than maybe it did. You know?
Yeah. You know, and I will redirect here before we get to the end here. I looked at Starrcade 98's main event on the quick count, and it was Kevin Nash taking on the undefeated champion Goldberg at the time. And I didn't think it was a good match. I thought it was fine for what it was. But the thing that rubbed me the wrong way with that is that Kevin Nash winning the world championship from Goldberg eventually led to the finger poke of doom because Goldberg wanted his return match. NWO had him arrested for stalking Miss Elizabeth. Hogan stepped in, finger poke of doom. So
Yep.
I really want to say that having back-to-back Starrcades with finishes that led to the demise of WCW. Um, it, it's supposed to be the biggest show of the year, and it just wasn't. It was a huge
No.
letdown. So
Well, even
transitioning into go ahead.
I'm
We got
sorry, I'm
all
going
the
to cut
time.
you off, brother, but
No, you're good.
even the card wasn't any good. Like, so say I can stomach a bad. Well, I mean, really, you can't. Botching that is just a blasphemy. But the Hogan Sting thing, okay, if the card was great, but the card wasn't any good either. Like, and it's wild because
Mm-hmm.
in this time period, you go and you can damn near pick any Nitro, and the wrestling's fine. The Nitro may be bad, and the booking may be bad, and it may be skits and bits like AEW, but the wrestling's usually
Mm-hmm.
good. And then it was like weirdly, on this pay-per-view, which you would assume at least the wrestling would be good, like it always is on Nitro, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. So, I don't know if it was a case of maybe big, people getting the big show jitters, maybe. I don't know, because they're professionals, so probably not that. I don't know. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't click and it didn't work.
No, I'm giving this a half a star out of 5 for the entire show. Um, I thought about giving it a 1 star because there's only really two matches on this whole card that you should even consider watching. Okay, and that is the opening cruiserweight championship match, and the second one being the United States title match, which wasn't great, but it was serviceable. But
Yes.
everything else on this card is just, why did you book this? And why do you have guys like this on the show when you don't have guys like Harlem Heat on the card, guys like Rey Mysterio on the card? But yet we
Yep.
have, but yet we have room for you know Vincent, Larry Zbyszko, Eric Bischoff match.
Vincent,
There's
Vincent
just
twice.
yeah, there's just so many missteps, and it's for your biggest show of the year, and I've already said it, but it's supposed to be WCW's equivalent to WrestleMania, you know, and it just completely bombed, and and I swear if I have to watch another Buff Bagwell Lex Luger match, that might be the end of the show. I'm telling you now.
Well, well, I I won't. If I see him verse each other, or I just see him in a tag team, I'm not watching. Even
Yeah,
against each other, I'm not watching.
yeah, it's I was
Sorry.
so disappointed. No, you're fine. I was so disappointed because there was a reason why I picked the show, and it was because I went to it as a kid, and just like what you said, go back and watch it, see if what you liked about it is still there. And the only thing I remember as a kid, like I said, is wearing my DDP shirt and Sting winning in the end, Sting's entrance being awesome. Um, Everything else is being a blur, and I'm like, do those things still hold up? And I'm like, yeah, Sting's entrance was great. Yeah, Sting winning was the right decision. It was the only decision. Um, Everything else, just avoid the show. Just avoid the show in general. Um, what did Okay, here's why. Because you can go watch an Eddie Guerrero Dean Malenko match. That's better. You can go watch a Kurt Hennig match. That's better. You can watch a DDP match. That's better. Don't waste your time funneling through this show to watch those two matches when you can go to another show and watch a
Oh,
match that's better.
you don't even need to go to the show. I told you, like I said, you can just pick a Nitro.
Yeah, yeah,
Just pick before you even get to a pay-per-view. Pick a Nitro.
mhm. Yeah.
And this
What
is
did?
also
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, you're good.
This
Good.
is also this is also a time where pay-per-view actually means something, you know, or you used to have to pay to view, you know, so you're talking $50, $60 and 96, 97, 98, you know, like that was a lot of money. So usually those shows were, you could tell the difference between a pay-per-view show and a regular show because good. But this one it just didn't have it on so many levels. So many levels.
Yeah. And I think the biggest question coming out of this is just why. You know, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Um, there's just so many things. What grade did you give the show, Jeff, and what are your overall thoughts on it?
I gave the show, man, I've been struggling with this. I'm going to give it probably a star and a half. I wanted to give it 1, but then I was like, maybe I could give it 2. So I'm going to go in the middle there. I'm going to give it a star and a half. That's being generous. It's probably really a star. It just it just didn't deliver. And it's sad because, you know, this thing was, before this, to harp on it again, it was billed correctly. The build-up was great. Everything else was fine. But when the rubber needed to meet the road, boy, it didn't work out. Didn't work out at all.
Yeah, and I graded it a little more harshly because I feel like you're building this to be the biggest, and they said it to kick off the show, the biggest show in WCW history. You put a billing
right.
like that, and you're kind of booking yourself into a corner a little bit, but you have an opportunity to kind of book your way out of it. And I feel like they just went all in, and we're just like, we're just going to stick to what we've got. And for some reason, you leave talented workers off of the card, and you put guys in matches they don't deserve to be in. And I graded it the way I did because everything was leading up to the main event, everything. And I can forgive kind of a sloppy match because Hogan wasn't exactly the ring technician he was, in the late '80s, early '90s. But just it was typical Hogan script, you know, uh, and then they messed up the screw job, and then you got Bret Hart for some reason. But for all of those reasons, you and I are on the same page though. It's just that this hit me more emotionally, I think than it did you, and that's totally fine.
Oh no,
but yeah.
Well, now that I hear you breaking it down like that, I mean, again, it's probably a no star. Damn it. But you're right. But no, you're right. Yeah, here I am trying to defend it. Oh, bless, getting me.
Yeah. I'm ready to wash my hands of this. So that is all for us today here at the Ref Bump. We have all of our social media links down in the description below. Next time you see us on the Ref Bump, we will be taking a look at WWE Armageddon 2004. We get a street fight. We get a Dixie dog fight. We get a 3-on-1 handicap match. And then we get a Funaki match. So should be a great time.
There we go.
Any parting words, Jeff?
Like always, watch more wrestling. Watch as much as you can. Old stuff, new stuff. Old stuff that is new to you, all the way around. Support local wrestling when it finally fires back up. That's about it.
Yeah. With that being said, we definitely appreciate you guys watching. That is Jeffrey Long. My name is Codd Sinclair, and we will see you next time.